Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Oroonoko or the Royal Slave, which is written by Mrs. Aphra Behn. Come, let's go to the summary. Oroonoko, the subtitle is The Royal Slave, is written by Aphra Behn and it is one of the best works in English literature. Not only that, it has also influenced the development of English novel. In fact, many of them debate that it is not Daniel Defoe but Aphra Behn who must be considered as the forerunner of English novel. That is, they are considering that Oroonoko is the first novel in English. And not only that, in this story, she has written from a female narrative voice. And the story deals with the anti-colonial and abolitionist themes. And this particular way of narration, because this story is narrated in the first person voice as well as in the third person voice, and this form of narrative was later made famous by the French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And when Behn started writing, that was something around 1682, she actually was suffering from a bad reputation because she was arrested for writing against the Duke of Monmouth, that is Charles II's illegitimate son, because he claimed the throne. And it is also said that Oroonoko is from her own personal experience as a young woman when she lived in Suriname. And not only that, Oroonoko tells about the horrors of slavery which was actually taking place at that time. Now we will have a look at the character list. Characters are Abon, Oroonoko's friend, and Bannister. He is a person who is elected by Bynum, who is governor in Suriname, and he is actually elected by Bynum to kill Oroonoko. And Bynum, of course, I told you, he is the deputy governor of Suriname. And Clement, this is the name, slave name given to Emonida, who is the main character, female character of this book. And Caesar is the slave name given to Oroonoko. And we must remember that Caesar was also betrayed by his own friends, and in this story also we will find that Oroonoko is also betrayed by his own friends. And Emonida, she is the main character of the story, and she is an African beauty whom Oroonoko loves. And then we have Jamon, who is an African warrior who was defeated by Oroonoko, but later on they become friends. And then we have the narrator, who is actually an English woman. And we can also say that Aphra Behn's character itself is portrayed as the narrator here. And this young English woman, she visits Suriname and she becomes a friend of Oroonoko. And we have Onahel, who is the senior wife of the king, that is Oroonoko's grandfather. And then of course Oroonoko, the African prince. And then we have Trifry, who is a person who is taking care of the Parham plantations, and he becomes a friend of Oroonoko, and he also tries to make him free from slavery. And then we have Tuscan, who is a Suriname slave, and he only helps Oroonoko to organize the slave revolt, but finally we find that he is a betrayer. And then we have Willoughby, he is the Lord Governor of Suriname, and he only owns this Parnam plantation, but he never comes there. Actually they are waiting for his arrival so that Oroonoko can be made free, but he never comes till the end. Now we will see the story. Now Oroonoko is the story of the African prince, the title character Oroonoko, and his wife Emonida. Both of them are captured by the British and they are brought to Suriname as slaves. And the full story is set in the north coast of South America, and the time is 1640s, that is before the English can surrender the colony to the Dutch. And in this story we find an English woman who is the narrator, and she is living in Parham plantation, and she wants to go back to England. And she is the daughter of the new deputy governor, but this deputy governor unfortunately dies when they are taking up the voyage to take over the new post. And during her wait, she meets Oroonoko and becomes his friend, and Emonida also becomes her friend. Not only the story is interesting, if you read the novel you will find that she has given a very beautiful description about the colony, about the people who are living there, and about the multicolored birds, and about the insects, and the beautiful flora and fauna found there, and also about the history of the natives who have lived there for a long time, and with whom the British were doing the trade. And in fact, she says that those natives were so very innocent that you can see Adam and Eve in them. That is the first state of innocence before man knew how to sin. These are the words written by Aphra Behn to describe the natives. And the British people who had come there, they were very happy with the natives and they had a very good relationship with them. And these natives were in large numbers, so the British could not enslave them. So they had to look to Africans to work as slaves for them in the sugar plantations. Then the story switches on to Coromantine, that is today's Ghana in the west coast of Africa, where we find Oroonoko. And the story begins with Oroonoko, who is about to meet Imanada. And why he goes to meet her is the general, who is Imanada's father, he had saved Oroonoko's life but died on that process. So he goes there to meet her, and there he sees how beautiful she is and he falls in love with her. At the same time, the king of Coromantine, that is, he is nearly 100 years old and he is the grandfather of Oroonoko. He also meets Imanada and he also falls in love for her. And already he has many wives and he wants to make her also one of his wife. And then he comes to know that Oroonoko is also in love with Imanada. And so what happens is, in order to make Imanada his wife, he sends her a royal wheel. And it is one custom in that place that when the king sends a royal wheel, no one should refuse it. At the same time, when you accept it, it becomes that you have agreed to become his wife. And once you become his wife, you will be locked within the otan. That is, it is called as a royal circle, where only the king can come and visit you. So Imanada is caught in that way. But Oroonoko, who is in deeply love with her, he, with the help of his friend Abon, goes there. And this Abon is having a love affair with one of the senior wives of the king, who is named as Onahel, and he helps Oroonoko to go and meet Imanada. Now the king comes to know about it and he catches hold of Abon, but Oroonoko runs away. Now getting angry on Imanada because now, according, since she has accepted the wheel, she is his wife, the king sells her as a slave. But he tells Oroonoko that she was put to death honorably. At the same time, what happens is the British people come there to buy the captives. That is, when they are having a war, that is these African peoples, if whoever gets defeated, they will be captured and they will be sold as slaves to the British people, and Oroonoko was selling these slaves. So the British come there to Coromantine and they buy the captives from Oroonoko, and before the ship can go, the captain invites the prince and his friends to the ship as his guest. But once Oroonoko goes into the ship, the captain says that they are also taken as captives and they will be sold as slaves there. Hearing this, Oroonoko and his friends, they refuse to eat. They say that we will die rather than go and live there as slaves. Immediately the captain tells him, okay, I will leave you free, just have your food and go back. But once they have their food, he refuses to release them. And they all come here to Suriname, and Oroonoko is sold in a very light way. He is actually a prince, a great warrior, but he is sold in a very casual way, like how all the slaves are sold. And the person who buys him is a person who takes care of the Param plantation, and his name is Mr. Jeffrey. And when Jeffrey sees Oroonoko, his physique, his way of appearance and his intelligence, he understands that he is not an ordinary person. And when he talks with him, he understands and he listens to the story, he pities him. And he says that as soon as the Lord Governor comes, because now he has been brought as a slave, and without the permission of the Lord Governor, whose name is Willingboy, he says, I cannot release you, but as soon as he come, I will tell about you and I will release you. And then he says, till then you can be in my own place, you can reside with me, you need not be with other slaves. And he also does not give him any work to work. And once when they are going for a walk, Oroonoko meets Imanada there. She is also a slave there, and he's so happy because all these days he thought that she is put to death. Now he's so very happy, and Imanada also is very happy. They immediately marry, and soon Imanada becomes pregnant. Now what happens is, Oroonoko, when he comes to know that he's going to have a child, he does not want his child to be born as a slave. So he is very desperate to know when he will get free. And at that time, Teffrey and also the narrator, they promise him that as soon as the governor comes, they will definitely release him and he can go back to Africa. In order to divert his attention, they take him for hunting, fishing, and they go around the native place, where we also get a very beautiful description about the place. And Oroonoko's talent as a hunter is shown in this description, because he kills 2 tigers single-handedly. And not only that, when he's trying to fish, an electric eel knocks him down unconscious, but even then he holds on to the fishing rod. And soon what happens is, Oroonoko finds out that the slaves are treated in a very bad manner in the plantation. So he organizes a slave revolt, and they all try to escape on a Sunday night when all the whites are fully drunk. But what happens is, in order to escape, they had to burn the bushes which were in front of them to make the pathway, and this helps the whites to trace them. And actual plan is, they want to cross that place and go to a nearby shore where they can find any ship which comes there, so that they can return to Africa. But what happens is, before that, the whites come and they capture him. And the deputy governor Bayam, he talks with Oroonoko, and he says that if all of you surrender, he says that definitely he will free them, and not only that, he will help them to return to Bayam, to Africa. But Bayam lies to Oroonoko, and the moment they all surrender, Bayam orders that Oroonoko must be whipped brutally and in front of all the slaves, so that the slaves will never get the idea of even trying to escape the next time. Not only he gets Oroonoko whipped, as soon as you whip a person, the flesh will tear, and wherever the flesh is getting wounded, they are pouring pepper on top of it to create a lot of pain to the person who is undergoing it. And now Oroonoko realizes that he will never be free, and he was very sure that his child will be born as a slave. So he tells Imenida that in order to save her dignity and to die in honor, he says that he wants to kill her. And at the same time, he tells her that he will definitely take revenge on Bayham, and then afterwards he'll kill himself and follow her after death. Imenida also thanks her husband for allowing her to die with dignity, and then Oroonoko cuts her throat and removes her face. But after cutting her head, Oroonoko is filled with grief that he never gets the energy to follow Bayham, and he sits next to the dead body of his wife for 8 days. And after the dead body decays, and this stench brings the Bayam's men to where Oroonoko is, and they go to the work of killing him. And we find that in the last scene, that Oroonoko is standing smoking his pipe, while these people slowly they chop off his nose, they chop his ears, and they cut one of his legs, and then he falls down. And even after he falls down dead, they cut his body into pieces before disposing it. The story ends here. It's a very moving and a very touching story. My request is, please read the original book to enjoy the beauty of the story. And if you have anything to add on to it, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.